Until now, I've basically been stating the obvious, right? That digital platforms is extremely powerful when it comes to matching needs and resources. Until I met Jan. I met Jan at the care home a couple of years ago while I was doing research for NIBI before we founded it. And I asked Jan, okay, what would you need help for? Just to learn. And then he said, yeah, he was in a wheelchair at the time, so he needed help for all kinds of mobility stuff, right? Errands and get down to town and so on. But then I started asking also, what could you do? How could you help out others if you look at the community around you as a village? And he said, nah, it was not too much he could do because he was stuck here. But then in advance, I had talked to him for an hour, so I got to know him a little bit. And so I knew that he spoke Vietnamese because he lived 7 years in Vietnam. He had an iPhone 6 with more apps than me, so he was a super tech-savvy guy. And then he used to help kids with homework as a volunteer before the wheelchair. And then he had a great career. So I just started kind of nudging him a bit, and probably you could help people find the right job or get out of unemployment or something. And I said, nah, it's 10 years since I've been at work, and so many things has changed. But then I said, probably you know more about Norwegian labor life than, let's say, a dropout from school, both parents are on the social service, and maybe from Somalia. Maybe he knew more about Norwegian labor life than that. And then it started dripping out of him. And the next morning, he sent me an SMS that he had been thinking all night of all he could do if only people came to him. That was the only blocker. And if we look at this care home, we look also for the abilities there, not just what's wrong. Then we see that it's a resource hub. We have Jan, he's a great example, but it's also people that have survived 40 years of marriage. It should be fantastically interesting. Yeah. Fantastically interesting for our generation.